Courtney Gilbert, and I'm the curator at the Sun Valley Museum of Art, where our spring exhibition is titled Intertwined, Weaving in Community. I started thinking about organizing this exhibition a few years ago when I noticed that a number of contemporary artists were working with weaving and with textiles in really new and interesting ways, experimenting with different kinds of materials, different kinds of form, and also different kinds of content, which is not something that we typically associate with weaving. One of the things that was most interesting to me was that some artists were using traditional weaving practice, sometimes centuries old, from their cultures in order to create a social practice and to use it as a platform for activism. So this exhibition features work by two artists and also an artist collective. One of the artists, Sara Siestreem, is a member of the Hanis Coos tribe and is based in Portland, Oregon. Sara trained as a painter at Portland State University and also at Pratt Institute in New York, where she received her MFA, but she really works across lots of different disciplines, not just in painting, but also printmaking, photography, social practice, and weaving. And it was actually after she received her MFA that she returned to Oregon and began to study the traditional weaving practices of her tribe, working with artists including Greg Archuleta, to learn not just how to make her tribe's baskets, but also kind of the ceremonial and social and cultural context in which they exist. And so she's integrated weaving into her practice in really different and interesting ways. She was interested in the idea of casting baskets in ceramic, but realized that if she cast the actual fiber baskets, they'd be destroyed in the process. So she worked with another artist to scan and 3D print some of her baskets and then create molds which could become slip cast ceramic baskets. So we have a number of examples of, for instance, a clam basket that's been 3D printed and then produced in limited edition multiples in ceramic. And it's, as she describes it, it's this really beautiful circle from natural materials, the fibers that she works with, to a 21st century technology, and then back to ceramic, a material from the earth. In addition to clam baskets that were produced in this way, and also examples of dance caps, we have this new work that Sara created for the exhibition, which is part of a series she's been working on of sculptures produced in sets of 4. They combine fiber, they combine natural materials, abalone shell, check glass beads, and also, again, these cast ceramic dance caps that exist at the top of the sculptures. She produces them in sets of 4, and she calls them minions. For Sara, they're guardians and also avengers. And then we also have a number of works on paper and also work on wood panel that refer to her weaving practice, sometimes literally. Sara had a fellowship at the University of Oregon where she was able to interact in ceremony with ancestral objects and made Xeroxed images of these that she has worked into a number of her works on paper. So the baskets are literally incorporated into these two-dimensional objects. And Sara has also worked to form a school for teaching the Indigenous weaving traditions in her region as a way to make sure that that knowledge and those technologies get carried on through generations. And she works with lots of other artists who are engaged in this process with her. One of the things that they do is work to protect Indigenous access to the sites where the materials required for weaving are available, ensuring that these weaving practices will be able to exist for generations to come. Tanya Aguiñiga is a Los Angeles-based artist who was born in San Diego and grew up in Tijuana. She's a binational citizen who crossed the border daily for school as a child. And that experience really informs her practice as an artist. Tanya received an MFA actually in furniture design from the Rhode Island School of Design, and her early furniture work often involved fiber. But today she primarily makes sculpture using all different kinds of fibers. And we have a number of different sculptures that she's made over the last few years from different bodies of work. One of the bodies of work emerged out of 2020 when Tanya was working in her home studio, where her daughter was also quarantining with her, and her daughter was in early elementary school at the time. And together with a number of other artists, Tanya kind of organized a sort of co-op where 4 other children came to her home studio every day, all of them taking online classes and participating in online school while she was trying to make work. And Tanya has a really rich weaving practice that draws on Mesoamerican patterns and things like the backstrap loom, on pre-Columbian Andean weaving traditions. And she uses all of these to create these really richly patterned and textured sculptures. At this time, because her studio time and space was really limited, she began focusing on knitting these long columns of cotton rope and then ice dyeing them with these really bright, vivid, kind of contrasting and gorgeous colors. And when she talks about them as an expression of joy, but also of the chaos of that period in her life. And these sculptures that she was making began to take on almost kind of human figural form in some cases, or to look like creatures maybe from some other kind of world. So they have this very sort of bodily quality, and a lot of them have flax that looks like hair and synthetic hair. And I like that correspondence between Tanya's use of both natural and synthetic materials, and then Sara Siestreem's use of things like 3D printing, but also fiber and ceramics. So there's this nice conversation. We also have a sculpture that Tanya made really recently where you can see all of the different kinds of weaving techniques that she incorporates into her work, lots of different patterns. Again, it's a kind of swooping figure that starts to feel human or just starts to feel organic in a lot of ways. And as you get close to it, there are these terracotta elements that are embedded in the sculpture that almost look like bodily organs. And sometimes Tanya adds hands, terracotta hands, to her sculptures. This specific form of ceramic work is a tradition called Pai Pai from northern Baja. It's an indigenous ceramic practice that requires really kind of simple and easily replicable tools, including just handwork and then working with stones to kind of create forms. And so there's this beautiful undulation of terracotta inside the sculpture. So in addition to her individual studio practice, Tanya founded a collective in 2016, a female-led collective of artists and culture workers called AMBOS, Art Made Between Opposite Sides. She established AMBOS at a moment when rhetoric around the US-Mexico border was really reaching new heights. And she wanted to be able to give the people who live and work and cross the border regularly voice and visibility. And so together with her colleagues in AMBOS, she organized a project where they went from the San Diego-Tijuana border all the way to the Brownsville-Matamoros border in Texas, visiting every single port of entry over the course of 3 years. And when they reached these ports of entry, they arrived with postcards that asked what people thought about when crossing the border, and also had a string attached to them. And participants were invited to tie a knot and to write down their thoughts about the border and what their lives are like on it and near it. And together, more than 7,000 people participated in the project. We have a sculpture that we were able to borrow from the Los Angeles County Museum of Art that's called the Border Quipu, or the Quipu Fronteriza, that consists of columns of these knots assembled together. So it's really a community-made artwork, and it uses the form of the quipu, which is an Inca pre-Columbian system of using knotted cord in order to record information or to keep inventories, to collect data, censuses, things like that. So, hundreds of years ago, the Inca were using these systems of knots, different directions and colors, as a way to contain knowledge, and now the Border Quipu contains these stories in a very similar way, in a very similar form. We invited AMBOS to come here and to conduct workshops in early April of this year, and Tanya and her colleague Natalie M. Godinez came for a week, and in the course of just a few days led multiple workshops, fiber workshops, in collaboration with a number of our community partners. So we worked with the Advocates, the Alliance of Idaho, the Hunger Coalition hosted one of our workshops, and we also worked with clubs at Wood River High School with Nosotros United and the Amnesty International Club, the Art Club, to get participants in a teen workshop and family workshops to dye fabric, to dye pillowcases, to embroider pillowcases, to take patches that had been made by residents of shelters in Tijuana who are awaiting asylum, and to embroider those onto pillowcases and blankets. And then also we made cyanotypes, and then we started 2 looms that will become woven landscapes, big woven landscapes through participation during the course of the exhibition. And all of this work is going to go back out into the community. So we'll be giving pillows and blankets to the Advocates, an artwork for their children's play area in their shelter. We're going to be giving the artworks, the cyanotypes and the looms to the Hunger Coalition and to the Alliance of Idaho. So it's been this really beautiful moment where people across the Wood River Valley came together to make art that will exist in the exhibition and then go back out into the world. I hope people will come in and enjoy the exhibition and then also contribute to our 2 community-based weaving projects and help us complete these beautiful landscapes over the course of the next few months.